Is Jesus going to save the rom-com? That's the story coming up here next on Faith and Film. Stay where you are. Hey there, y'all. Welcome back to Faith and Film. Tim Risto here. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Headline reads, Jesus is saving the rom-com. Yeah, a little clickbaity, I know, but Jonathan Roumie, who plays Jesus in the famous TV series The Chosen, about the life of Christ based on the Gospels and the Bible, of course. Jonathan Roumie, who is also starring alongside lead Kevin James in the new Angel Studios comedy Solo Mio, which opens today, February 6th, as of the date of the recording of this video. Jonathan Roumie is quoted as saying, Solo Mio is saving the rom-com. So I thought we'd take a look at this article over at christianpost.com, which talks a little bit about the film and Jesus, Jonathan Roumie, saying Solo Mio is going to save the rom-com. So we'll see. We'll take a look at this. So let's punch in over there real quick. Headline reads, Jonathan Roumie, Solo Mio is saving the rom-com, bringing Brotherhood back to the big screen. This article is again by Leah Marianne Klett, one of our favorites over at Christian Post. This dropped on Wednesday. At a moment when romantic comedies have been mainly relegated to streaming services or abandoned altogether in favor of increasingly raunchy plot lines, The Chosen star Jonathan Roumie believes his latest project, Solo Mio, is saving the rom-com. This is the perfect film to save the rom-com, the 51-year-old actor told the Christian Post of the family-friendly Angel Studios film, which opens nationwide February 6th. Again, that's today. It does open today. If you're part of the Angel Guild, the Angel Studios membership or subscription platform, you get some free tickets, so many free tickets a year, I think it is. And if you are, you should take advantage of that because you could get I think a couple tickets free to this one if you haven't used yours for the month or whatever the quota is. I'm actually taking my wife to the film tonight, so I will be doing a full review of this in the next several days. But so if you are an Angel Studios member, check into that and see. You might have a couple free tickets to this waiting for you. Solo Mio, rated PG and set in Italy, centers on Matt Taylor, portrayed by Kevin James, a mild-mannered art teacher left at the altar in Rome who decides to stay for the prepaid honeymoon anyway. As he moves through Italy alone, Matt encounters fellow honeymooners, among them a wannabe therapist named Neil, played by Roumie, and Julian, Kim Coates, who offer companionship, advice, and occasionally chaos. Now, I'm a big Kevin James fan. I've mentioned that before in many other videos. So I loved him in King of Queens. I thought it was a great series, well written. His style of humor is, very specific. He's got a very, defined style of comedy, as some of the best comedians usually do. And so I love not all of his films. Some of them have been hit or miss. But Here Comes the Boom, for me, was one of his very good comedies. And this one looks to be funny, but also sweet, with the romance story in there, too. But, as they go on to say here, one of the film's most striking through lines is the bond between men and how male friendship can serve as a lifeline. It's a theme audiences may recognize from Roumie's work on The Chosen, where his portrayal of Jesus has prompted viewers, especially men and boys, to see him as both strong and emotionally present. So this is what kind of caught my eye about this article. It's not what I was expecting. I'm sure, of course, they're trying to promote the film to men. They don't want just, women to go and see this. They'd like to get a broader audience, of course. So some of this, I'm sure, is to help prompt men to go to this film as well. But the fact that Roumie here is mentioning this and drawing the connection to his portrayal of Jesus here, I think it's kind of interesting. Men, of course, have been under attack. The masculinity has been under attack in more recent years. And so it's nice to see in a rom-com like this where they're trying to draw that connection. It remains to be seen. I'll see the film tonight, like I said, whether they successfully do that and how it's handled. But this is encouraging to me. Again, not that you want to make rom-coms now suddenly for men, but that if it helps to draw into that connection, at least with this particular film and storyline, I think that'd be kind of interesting. So I'm very curious about how they handle that aspect of it. This sounds interesting already. Let's punch in down here a little further. I think the notion of masculinity as a positive trait is just something that's been kind of lost to the culture or kind of usurped by other forces and influences, Roumie, a professing Catholic, said. And I think when you can actually show what that looks like in everyday human relationships, you see that in The Chosen. I've got a lot of response from children saying, oh, Jesus feels like he's a man's man, but he's tender and he loves and he's open-hearted. But that's just masculinity. That's what it means to be a man in society and trying to live life and provide for people. That same dynamic plays out in Solo Mio, where Neil and Julian both recognize Matt as a brother in need, even if they wildly disagree on how to help him. So again, that sounds like an interesting setup to me. It's not just Kevin James being left at the altar and then, wandering around Italy and finding new love. It's not just that. It sounds like there's this perhaps kind of B plot or parallel storyline that involves these guys, Jonathan Roumie's character and Kim Coates' character, that could really add interesting. I assume they intersect at some point, but it sounds like they're kind of paralleling storylines, possibly. And so I think that's interesting, that kind of male masculinity brotherhood connection that probably is going to help Kevin James's character, along the way. So, and be humorous, of course. So I'm curious about this. This sounds like a little interesting, a little different angle, perhaps a little interesting take on the rom-com trope. The film's appeal, he noted, cuts across generations. His teenage nieces found it hysterical, while men who expected not to enjoy it were surprised by how deeply they connected. Guys came up to us saying, I didn't think I'd like this, but I loved it, Roumie said. They connected to guys being guys, trying to talk about their feelings, or maybe not quite able to, but still having those emotional moments. You go through this roller coaster of emotions, he added. People come out just elated, feeling good because it's wholesome. It's not just for adults. It's got something for everybody. So in keeping with my headline, will Jesus, Jonathan Roumie, the film Solo Mio, will it save the rom-com? Please don't hate me in the comments. This is all just tongue-in-cheek as far as the Jesus thing goes. Will Solo Mio save the rom-com? I don't know, but I am curious about this angle that Roumie talks about here in the article, which is why I wanted to bring this up today, but of that element of brotherhood, of restoring kind of this bond of friendship among men, a look at masculinity within a caring, loving light, how that it comes across in the film, and how maybe it will offer a slightly fresh angle on the rom-com. Not that this has not ever been done before, but that I think this particular angle, and if it does play up some of the faith elements a little bit bigger, I don't know. That remains to be seen. But it sounds like it might. Then I'm very curious about how this plays out. So we'll see. There are many female characters involved here too, including the ones that I think Kevin James will ultimately fall in love with. But I don't know her name in particular. She might be a new actress. I'm not sure. But like I said, I'll be going to watch the film tonight with my wife, and I'll give you a full review in the next few days, and I can cover more about the actors and actresses involved. But this looks like a fun, interesting, sweet, little romantic comedy. But I thought this article was interesting because it did talk about that, bringing brotherhood back to the big screen in a rom-com, which is, again, kind of a unique take on that formula. All right, y'all, that's all I got for today. Go out, check out Solo Mio. Looks like a good, sweet, fun, romantic comedy starring Kevin James, Jonathan Roumie, and Kim Coates, coming to you from Angel Studios. If you want to see more Christian and faith-based films like this, you need to go out and support them. Best way is to go to theaters, support them there, support them when they come onto streaming. If you're into physical media, buy physical media copies. Help to show your love for this type of filmmaking. Like I said a couple times already, my wife and I are going to see it tonight, to go see Solo Mio tonight, and I will give you my full review within the next day or so. So anyway, go out, check out Solo Mio, and remember, above all else, stay in God's Word. Blessings, y'all. Have a great one. Take care.